bank business tour. And I want to go back to the Cook County State's Attorney's debate on Sunday night, the debate between the Democrat candidates for Cook County State's Attorney. And I thought there was a question or two that illustrated an important difference between the two challengers, effectively two challengers, to Kim Foxx. And here's Bill Conway. He's the guy whose dad's a billionaire. You see him all over TV. You have for months. $8 million to his campaign, which is fine. It is what it is. But not just identifying him. And then the quality of his answer on the question of cash bail, eliminating cash bail, a bail reform akin to what New York State, and New York City implemented, that de Blasio has conceded is the proximate cause of the recent increase in crime. Here's what Bill Conway said.
Yeah, I am absolutely in favor of eliminating cash bail. It makes no sense to me that somebody with means and money can get out of jail and somebody who doesn't has to stay in jail. That is not the kind of system we should have. But when we think about the purpose of jail, we have to remember that jail is a place for people that are a danger to the community. We don't want to be sending people there who are poor or addicted or mentally ill, but do not pose a danger to the community. But by that same token, if somebody commits a violent crime, somebody commits a crime with a gun, I think that person should go to jail.
Now here's Donna More, former prosecutor, answering the question in the context of repeat gun offenders.
Is why they end up in court and then right back on the streets.
Well, there is a term of art that has come out of this administration, which is catch and release. And what's happening is people are getting arrested, in particular gun crimes, carjackings with guns, and then they're back out on the street, frustrating police because they then rearrest many of these people the next day or the next week. So the first thing we have to do is prosecute. We can't be reducing felony gun crimes to misdemeanors, which is happening quite a bit in the system. And we need to, similar with bail reform, you have to evaluate the case that comes before you. You have to evaluate the defendant and the nature of the gun crime. But somebody walking down the street with an AK-47 should be detained pre-trial. And we're not advocating in our courtrooms to judges to detain people pre-trial. And we need to do that so catch and release is no longer.
We're now joined by Donna More, Democrat candidate for Cook County State's Attorney. Donna, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
So here's the thing between you and Conway that I wanted to emphasize, because this is what struck me watching that debate. Conway, I mean, Kim Foxx, she's sort of a separate category. We'll get to her. But Conway is speaking categorically, and it comes across to me as abject pandering, where you, whether it was on retail theft arrests for retail theft under $1,000 or cash bail or dealing with repeat offenders and gun crime, the case-by-case basis approach that you took, a more surgical approach, a more thoughtful approach. We can't predict every case that will come before the state's attorney's office, and so we need to be judicious and restrained and thoughtful in how we go about using the office's prosecutorial power. I thought that was a real distinguishing characteristic between you and, frankly, everybody on that stage.
Well, the distinguishing characteristic is that none of my opponents have ever been in the felony trial courts. The main courtroom being at 26 in California. I was there. I was in 2 different courtrooms. I handled the call, and I tried violent felony crimes. And if you haven't done that, you really don't understand the system. You need to be in it in order to help your prosecutors understand how to do it. And it is a case-by-case decision. You can't make blanket policy because you'll always have cases that don't fit within it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just rare to have a politician running in Cook County who exercises any restraint or offers any kind of texture on any topic. Yeah. So that's why it struck me. It almost knocked me over, actually, when I was watching the debate.
Well, I don't view myself as a politician. I view myself as a working lawyer, and that's what I want to be as state's attorney. This is not a stepping stone or a political job for me. It's a legal job. But I find it interesting, too, because when we fill out questionnaires for the various groups that have forums, if you read through them, they'll tell each group what they want to hear, even though they conflict with what they say to one group versus what they say to another group. So, you know, the criminal justice system isn't about pandering to the politicians and the party. It's about doing a job. And if you make your decisions based on the law, the people of Cook County will actually get good representation.
Now, we actually, the Jussie Smollett case gained national attention. Special Prosecutor Dan Webb. Is there any possibility that Kim Foxx would be indicted before Election Day?
Oh, well, who knows when as I call it, Webb Part 2. We have Webb Part 1, which was that Jussie's re-indicted. And the second part of his report is whether there was wrongdoing by the state's attorney and the state's attorney's office. We can surmise, by virtue of the fact that he re-indicted Jussie Smollett, that there was evidence to indict. And then the question becomes, why were the charges dropped? We know that there were emails and text messages and phone calls. So I believe that, unlike what Ms. Fox calls this a review, I believe that this investigation by the special prosecutor, she could be looking at potential official misconduct charges, just to name one. And to me, the voters of Cook County have a right to know who they're voting for before Election Day.
I mean, using your spidey sense as a former prosecutor, does that the way that case presents, the facts that we know at this point, does it sound like somebody who tried to intercede on behalf of the defendant?
That's what it sounds like based on the text messages that have been released, the emails, things that have been released in the press already. And the issue is that the kind of prosecutor we want for Cook County, someone that takes a call, who's connected politically, and then they do what they're told, so to speak. I think we need an independent prosecutor.
But it's not only that. She said that she was going to recuse herself, but she didn't, because
Right.
then her assistant took over.
Right. You have to recuse the office. You just don't recuse yourself. The issue is, why hasn't she told us the truth? That's something we can all agree on. When she dropped the charges 3 weeks later, rough and tough, she didn't have a press conference and say, here's why I dropped the charges. Potentially because she couldn't say that without possibly admitting that she violated the law. And then when the special prosecutor was appointed, she hid behind the special prosecutor and said, I can't tell you now because the special prosecutor's investigating. So for someone who ran on transparency, she has been less than transparent. And that's the issue. The Jussie case, everybody says, well, one case doesn't define her. One case defines her in the sense that it is her pattern and practice not to be transparent on issues that she doesn't want to be transparent on.
Well, it's a bit ironic as well, because one case defined her path to the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, and that was the Laquan McDonald case. And you're right, one case can define you in terms of how you handle it. And this is, it's obvious what she's doing. It could have been handled better. Sort of this blanket admission of, I made some mistakes without having to be specific about the mistakes. It's a very standard issue crisis comm strategy that she's employing. And I would ask if she's, she can't talk about it because a special prosecutor is investigating. I mean, is that essentially the equivalent of invoking your Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination?
Well, but my point is, before the special prosecutor, she could have talked about it. When she dropped the charges in secret, she could have talked about it. Here's why I dropped the charges. Tell us. That's the question that we're asking, and we can't get an answer to it.
Now, on that debate Sunday night, Kim Foxx may not be an able state's attorney, but she is an able candidate. And I thought she got away with some things that she shouldn't have got away with. And that's, frankly, the job, not just of the moderators, but the other candidates on stage. We just played a clip of you talking about repeat gun offenders. I mean, there was this weekend, just less than a year ago, June of last year, where you had 52 people shot, 10 people murdered. 11 of the 18 people Chicago police arrested had been prior bad actors, convicted felons, including many repeat gun offenders. And they were released. And Kim Foxx was on stage talking about how, forget Jussie Smollett, we've devoted all our resources to combating gun crime, to combating violent crime, and we're making real progress. How do you react to what she said?
Sometimes I feel as if I'm in an alternate reality when I'm in a room with the other candidates, because I think I walk out thinking everything's fine, and then I read the same news reports that you all read. It's not fine. One of the reasons I'm running is she is not charging cases. And the directive from her office to the assistant state's attorneys is try to find any reason you can not to charge. Try to find self-defense instead of a murder. Let's not have bail for, violent offenders, not advocate for pretrial detention of violent offenders, because she and Tony Preckwinkle want to save money at the jail. And instead, they'd rather put our communities at risk. Catch and release is unacceptable. The criminal justice system is a case-by-case system. Let's look at the offender, let's look at their rap sheet, and then make the decision and advocate for pretrial detention.
But there's something else afoot there, I think, and with respect to the culture of non-prosecution you're describing. And you mentioned the name on stage, George Soros, who's been a huge financial backer of Kim Foxx and other state and regional level prosecutors around the country. And this is ideological, pushing a culture of non-prosecution. And I don't know that people truly understand that Kim Foxx is an ideologue when it comes to what she's doing. It's not about being a fiscal conservative with respect to the jail.
Well, I think that's right. Kim Foxx is using this office to pursue a political policy, if you will, not basing decisions on the law, but basing it on how she socially wants the criminal justice system to look. And you don't get a good criminal justice system that way. But millions and millions of dollars are pouring into her campaign. I have, Mr. Conway, who I don't believe is qualified for the job either, whose father is trying to buy the election for him. And the question is, and I asked this before, how much is it worth? How many millions to buy the power of indictment? I think the power of indictment should be held by somebody who's independent and who makes decisions based on the law. I don't believe it's something you should be able to buy. And I hope the voters of Cook County agree with that.
And it's also, but when we're talking about financiers, I also want to be quick to point out not just Soros with respect to Fox, but also, the establishment, machine financiers, Tiny Dancer's top financier, Michael Sachs, and other corporate interests, the men and women of always in the city of Chicago behind Kim Foxx. So in terms of this idea, she's sort of a new generation of leadership that's independent of the machine. Not so.
Look, the Cook County political machine doesn't want somebody who's not only been a state's attorney who's tried violent crime, but an assistant U.S. attorney that's tried white-collar and public corruption cases. They don't want to have to worry that somebody's actually going to do a public corruption case in Cook County, or maybe cooperate and do a joint investigation with the feds. The Cook County Democratic machine wants to control that office and the power of indictment. And they're doing it because, in the election 4 years ago, Kim Foxx didn't have the connections to raise that kind of money. It was the Democratic machine that picked her, made her their protege, and has financed her ever since.
Now, we talked before the segment began about Joe Biden. People wrote him off 2 weeks ago, and yet look what he did on Super Tuesday. Are you going to try and replicate that?
Listen, I think that the momentum is in my favor. I got the Tribune endorsement. I got the Daily Herald endorsement. People are really excited, and people are fed up. I was last night at a Moms for Peace. These are moms and dads who've lost their kids to needless gun violence, and they feel like the system has failed them. They feel that the state's attorney's office has failed them. When you go into the communities that are most riddled by violence in our county, those are the folks that want change. And I think that all voters want change because nobody feels safe. Talk in any community. Talk to the parents, talk to the police, talk to the shop owners. We have a problem.
I wanted to ask you this question that John Cass raised in his column this morning about the shooting at that CTA Red Line station, the two officers who shot the individual who was allegedly going from car to car on the CTA, and that was the purpose of the confrontation. Cass writes, there is little outrage. The race of the cops and the criminal is wrong for outrage. This wasn't about white cops shooting a black man. This was about two African-American cops shooting a Hispanic man. So the usual racial political dynamics that Chicago unfortunately knows all too well don't apply, and he's asking whether or not Kim Foxx will move to indict those two officers based on the video evidence plus whatever other evidence investigators have gathered prior to the primary, or will there be a special form of justice because of the racial composition of police and alleged victim?
Look, nobody's above the law. Not even our men and women who wear navy blue. Having said that, you know, you mentioned the Laquan McDonald case, and the issue that Kim raised and I raised, frankly, was, did it take 400 days to indict that case? And Kim was very adamant that if you looked at the video, that case should have been indicted promptly. And now we have similar, although I think the fellow in the video is in serious condition in the hospital, so he's still alive.
Right.
But the issue is when you look at that video, it is very troubling. The interim police chief referred the case to the state's attorney's office, and with witnesses, with the video, how long should it take to determine should that case be indicted against the police officers or should it not be?
How long? You're a prosecutor
yeah.
at both levels. How long would it take if you were?
I think you can certainly indict that case before March 17th. And, you know, I would hope that she would look and do the same, because that's what she complained about. It shouldn't matter what the race of the potential defendant who now has the charges dropped or the race of the police officers. It's about the law.
Yeah, when I saw it, I didn't see color, which is strange. And then one of our callers called in and said the 2 African-American police officers. And I thought, oh my gosh, you're right. And last night they were relieved of their police powers.
Right.
And, you know.
Let's take a quick call from our friend David Hochberg. He's got a question for Donna More. David, go ahead.
Hey, guys. Hey, Donna, quick question. If you don't, for some reason, make it out of the primary due to the economic forces against you, would you consider running as an independent in the general? Later in the year, I'll hang up and listen for my answer. Thanks.
Thanks, David.
Okay, thanks. I might consider it. It's pretty hard to run as an independent in Cook County against the 2 political parties just because of the money issue, to be honest with you. But
what if Bill Conway's dad financed your independent run? Would that help?
Gave you a little sidekick.
that would help. You know, here is my what I think is going to happen. I think the morning of March 18th, I'm going to have a billionaire in New York and a billionaire in Washington, D.C. wake up and say, how the hell did that happen? Did this woman gain the momentum and the confidence because she's so experienced of the voters of Cook County that she beat 2 political machine, a political machine and an ATM machine?
Nice.
I was going to say money machine, but I like ATM better. That's good.
Donna, where can people get more information about your campaign?
Donna More, DonnaMore.com. Yeah, you deserve more.
1-0. Donna More, Democrat candidate for Cook County State's Attorney on the March 17th ballot. Donna, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having me. Appreciate it.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Folks, when shopping for a home mortgage, how much is great service, low closing costs, and competitive interest rates worth to you? At Townstone Financial, it's priceless. Hi, Barry Sterner, founder of Townstone Financial. Let's hear about the Townstone experience from one of our customers.
This is John. I did my second home purchase with Townstone Financial. Just working with Barry and his team, they made everything easy. They took care of everything. Townstone was a great company to work with, and I couldn't be happier with how it turned out. Townstone's going to give the better rate by far. They found the best rates. They found